taking place from the 9th till the 12th of July at Coastlands Hotel in Hlongwa. So please do join us. Most of our keynotes addresses will be available on the digital spaces, as those will be live streamed during the conference.
Good morning, Prof. My name is Nobuhle of Omtala TV.
So my name is Nobuhle Hlongwa. I'm the Dean and the Head of the School of Arts here at the University of KwaZulu-Natal, and I'm also the Treasurer for ALASA and also the Deputy Chair for the Local Organizing Committee for this conference.
So we're here to pick your brain since the 25th International Conference of the ALASA is coming up. So we have a few questions that we'd like to talk to you about. The first question would be, how do you think the use of foreign languages like English affects the way in which African history is taught and in turn understood and received by the young generation?
Thank you very much, Kabonina, for this opportunity from Omtala TV, and also engaging us on this upcoming conference of the African Languages Association of Southern Africa. So this will be the 25th version of our conference that is being hosted by the University of KwaZulu-Natal, and we are very proud of that opportunity to be hosting such a prestigious conference. I think picking up on the question that you have raised for the use of the foreign languages in teaching history, and also how African languages, what is the importance of African languages in this. I must say, Kabonina, that in South Africa, based on our past, our history of apartheid, during apartheid, there were two official languages in South Africa, and that was English and Afrikaans. Those languages were languages for teaching and learning, and those were the official languages. Our African languages were not given the status that they deserved at the time. Where they'd given African languages some status, it was to a certain level and to a certain period, and after a certain period, you were not allowed to use the African languages. And what then happened was that the foreign languages achieved this status that you still see even today. But like what then happened was that with the use of the foreign language in education, we have seen so many dropouts in high school. With the research that has been done, and also by some of our colleagues, especially in the Eastern Cape, there was a brilliant research that was done in Tofivaba, which has informed a recent decision by our former Honorable Minister of Basic Education, where they have now announced that as from next year, from grade 4, I think, multilingualism will now be adopted for teaching and learning in schools, because like they have recognized the danger that has been caused by the use of foreign languages in education, especially in teaching history. So when you want the generation to know about their background, to know about who they are, it's better that be communicated in the language of the learners. So the need now and the recognition now that has been given to African languages is something that like we actually welcome, and that we have been waiting for a very long time, because like we've been doing a lot of activist work when it comes to issues of language. We're really excited that like now our learners will now be given an opportunity as well to learn quality learning in their home languages, in their mother tongue languages as well, in addition to English.
That is very insightful and very interesting actually, because speaking about introducing African languages into the schooling system, it has been noted that students usually struggle with STEM subjects like your science, technology, and mathematics. Do you think that teaching these subjects in native languages would actually improve their results and understanding of these subjects?
Definitely. The recognition of African languages or mother tongue or languages of the learners is something that is very, very interesting, and that we really, really need to clap hands and ululate. We ululate in our African languages. So it's very, very important that we do recognize these languages. So when you use your mother tongue for learning, it's even at a very early stage, it's bridge that gap for knowledge, and also it prepares learners for complex set of things they need to learn as they grow up. So that recognition of the African languages, and also the issue of respect as well, Kabonina. By recognizing these African languages, it's like, as a country, as South Africa, we are saying, now we are now implementing our language policy we came up with when we got our freedom, when we got democracy in South Africa in 1996. Because like 1996, a policy was there, the constitution was there, and it was giving these African languages some status, and legislation has been there, but like the implementation was not happening. So it's like now we are saying, hey, we are now doing the implementation, now walk with us. So we will walk this journey and see where it takes us.
Thank you so much for that. You mentioned that for learners or the young people to fully understand themselves, where they come from, their history should be taught to them in their native languages. So my next question would be, do you think that language plays a role in society building, in terms of how people view themselves and others within society?
Definitely. Maybe before I go to this question, I'm remembering something regarding some of the STEM subjects, based on our previous question. We have been having a lot of engagements with mathematics teams, and we are busy creating terminology in isiZulu and also in the other African languages. I know in Free State they are also busy working on mathematics terminology as well. The maths teams are working with African languages teams and also other field specialists to develop mathematics terminology in African languages. Here at UKZN, because our strong focus is isiZulu, we are working on isiZulu terminology. And it's really, really interesting. At some point, we had a committee of practice. We had a meeting of the Committee of Practice for the Teaching and Learning of Mathematics and the Committee of Practice for the Teaching and Learning of African Languages. We had a joint workshop, and there were some other ideas coming with other academics to say that like mathematics has got its own language. What is it that like we were trying to do? But like looking at how mathematics is being taught, there are terms in African languages that we may use, whilst the mathematics has got its own language and so forth, but there is this communication that is currently, or that requires a home language. Because like if you take for instance isiZulu, within the language itself there is a lot of mathematics, a lot of science that is in there. And when you use that knowledge, that learner's knowledge to teach mathematics, even for other complex things, they will easily understand it. So that is why the use of the home language, the recognition of the home language is actually vital for quality learning, and maybe it will ease the dropouts that we see in education. If you can see the stats, how learners dropped, especially once the language changes into English, you will understand the importance of the language. In our societies, the language goes with what is happening and in each space and the age where you are and so forth. So within the community, so there is this language that is currently being used, or that tends to be used depending on the nature of the subject at the time. So communities do create these terminologies. So in whatever space, so I was just making an example with this one, even though it's more derogatory, because like I don't think it's actually not realistic that you expect each and every woman to get married. Some people don't even want to get married. Some do want, but like the potential husbands don't come. And again, like we were talking regarding the issue of our society now, that we've been socialized to understand that men should propose at all times. But with the system of our economy, with the opportunities that have been given to females, many females are working and many males are now no longer working. And the roles have changed. But in terms of the culture and also in terms of the language, things haven't changed. So we haven't told our youngsters, our young males that like, or females, we haven't told them that like, now that things have changed, things are happening this way. Now let's allow females to propose. And to say, I love so and so forth. So like those things, and we're not communicating those things. But like other people have already started to do those things because things have changed. The lifestyle in South Africa has changed. And what then normally happens is that like you will find people living together, but not formally, because like there's no marriage and so forth. But it all goes back to the whole issue of the economy and how the lifestyle has changed them and so forth and so forth. So those are things that like normally happens in our communities.
Thank you so much for that. Wow, that is quite insightful and very bizarre, I'd say, because as you said, the way we grow up, it's not likely that a woman would propose to a man, and I don't think they would receive that well as well.
Yes. They don't.
They wouldn't.
Because of the ego.
Yes. So, you spoke about foreign languages, how it's important to learn foreign languages, how people are slowly moving into that, learning different African languages and even Mandarin. So would you say that learning these languages would help in terms of creating business networks for economic emancipation and job creation and so forth?
Perfect. I think as we have just mentioned, Kabonela, when you are multilingual, you don't have a single avenue where you will say, I will work only here.
Yes.
You can work anywhere in the world. Immediately you learn Mandarin, immediately you learn French, immediately you learn Portuguese or you learn Kiswahili. So with Kiswahili you can work in Tanzania, you can work in Kenya, you can work in Uganda, you can work anywhere in America, you can work in China, because like those countries I've just mentioned, they promote these languages. In Tanzania, Kiswahili is the language, it's the national language. So once you learn that language, you can easily work there. Many universities in America, they teach Kiswahili. The same with Mandarin. Immediately you learn Mandarin. For example, here in South Africa, I know they will be introducing Mandarin and also Kiswahili very soon in South African schools. We happened to witness the signing of a memorandum of understanding between Tanzanian government basic education and also South African basic education, where South Africa was committing that very soon they will be introducing Kiswahili in schools. So it's very, very important that like we do train teachers now to be able to teach in Kiswahili in schools as a major. So, because like we cannot rely on Tanzania, we cannot rely on Kenya, we cannot rely on Uganda. They don't even have enough teachers for Kiswahili. Many of the teachers are being taken by America and so forth. So as South Africa, for us to be able to start implementing and introducing Kiswahili in our schools, we need to train our own teachers. But going back to the issue that we have, the question that we have raised, to be a polyglot, to be a multilingual, it opens doors for you. Many doors for you. For example, when we talk television, the different SOPs, some like they broadcast in English, some in Afrikaans, some in these different languages. You can get a job in any of these if you are multilingual. You can do the Chivenda one, you can do the Sesotho one, you can do the Xhosa one if you are multilingual. So it opens many doors. There are opportunities for interpreting work, for translation work. Right now there's a lot of translation work that is required, and if you are multilingual, you can do quite a lot. So we really need to promote and encourage people to be multilingual, so that like they widen their net in terms of creating job opportunities.
Thank you. Speaking about widening the net and looking for more connections and network in other African countries and the world at large, we are going towards, or rather experiencing, the fourth industrial revolution already, and young people are encouraged to get into the same STEM industries that they're struggling with in school. So how do you think integrating these languages into technological advancement would sort of uplift the economy? Or rather, do you think that if we were to integrate these languages into these spaces, it would promote economic emancipation?
The issue of the digital age, the issue of the digitization of African languages is actually going to be one of the key themes for the conference. We have different themes, but like this one is going to be one of those key ones. What we're actually saying here with African languages is that as we are in this digital space, as we are in the digital age, let us not leave the African languages behind in the whole innovation. Currently, we have different projects that we are working on. So maybe I'll make use of maybe one or two examples so that like you see how we are entering into this digital space using our African languages. The University of KwaZulu-Natal in 2014 came up with a bachelor rule that required all undergraduate students to complete a module in isiZulu before they finish their degree. So as part and parcel of that implementation of that rule, we are currently busy working on an online isiZulu course that can be taken by any student. It will not going to be only UKZN students that will be able to take that module, but like any other student in Canada, in China, in Japan, in France, they can enroll for this course. It will be a fully online course. And for us to be able to do that, we need to enter the space. So how do we enter the space? We need to create the digital presence of African languages, the content. Upload content in African languages. Other than uploading content, the development of terminology, the development of corpus. So there's currently working with quite a lot of large corpus, your oral corpus, your written corpus. We are feeding computers with this corpus to create content, to create resources in African languages. And also working with different entities like your Google and so forth. So there's quite a lot of work. Many people are working on this. A few days back, we were having a meeting with some of our collaborators where they are actually working on a digital map of African languages. And they're currently working with isiZulu. By the way, ulimi likaPhunga noMageba is big. It's not only big here in South Africa, it's big internationally. And we are proud to have been part and parcel of that journey of making ulimi likaPhunga noMageba that big. So isiZulu is one of those languages that is part and parcel of that project where they're creating the digital map. Kiswahili is also one of those languages, just to mention those two. So what they're doing, just to share a little bit of the kind of work that they do, this team is actually working with our Center for Creative Art team here at UKZN. We do have a Center for Creative Art that delivers on many various projects or various festivals, starting with the Time of the Writer, beginning of the year, to I think our second one is normally the DIF, which is the Durban International Film Festival, and we also work with Jomba, which is the dance International Dance Festival, and towards the end of the year we have Poetry Africa. In between, we have introduced other festivals like your Artfluence Human Rights Festival, where we focus a lot on issues of human rights, and language is also at the center of that. So starting with Poetry Africa, which is our last festival. Poetry Africa has now enjoyed, I think, 26 years of its existence. So this team is now creating a digital map of the poets who have been participating since the inception of Poetry Africa. So in the digital space, you will be able to go to a province and to a city and then click and then be able to pick, oh, there is so and so. If there is also a video where we have a video, like there is a video there for a person performing a poem and all of that, and there is some information about that poet. So we're creating that presence, that digital presence of these poets in that space. So that's what they will be working with CCA. But like at the same time, the entire isiZulu language will have that digital map, that digital space, working with this team. So like there's quite a lot. There's so much excitement in terms of having our African languages in the digital space, and also creating these job opportunities for people to work on our languages. Unlike before, during our time when we were still students and learning African languages, we were called names. I'm not going to mention what names, but like we were called names, and we were asked, why are you studying in African language? Why are you studying isiZulu? Why are you going to do isiZulu? You speak isiZulu, of course. So why do you study isiZulu? Why should you study Xhosa? You already know it's close. Yes. But we didn't listen. We focused on our course, and look at where it has taken us. We have succeeded. We have written books. We have taught African languages not only here in South Africa. You go to other countries, you promote isiZulu, you promote your African languages. So that's what we need to do as Africans. We need to promote our African identity wherever we go. We need to do that, and don't forget who we are.
We are really going somewhere. All these programs and development, they really make us hopeful that we are going somewhere as Africans. One last question would be, since I'm in the media space, I would like to know, would you say that the media, both mainstream and alternative media, would you say that they're doing enough to empower or enrich the use of African languages, which as you said, it sort of encourages cultural identity. So would you say that they empower that, they empower the use and implementation of the African languages within their programs?
I will say to a certain extent, yes. Let me pick on the newspapers. Those departments are really working very hard, especially with our African languages. When I talk, I'm normally biased to isiZulu because that's the language that I'm more exposed to and that I work with. I think we have more than 4 or 5 newspapers that publishes in isiZulu. So I think in line with the constitution of the country, they have recognized African languages in such a way that for each of the 9 official languages, there is a radio station that is broadcasting in those official languages. We don't take those lightly. That's huge, and radio has a huge listenership. But when it comes to the digital space and other, that is where we really need to create the presence of our African languages, because our youth now, even the young kids, as early as 4 or 5 years, they already play with the gadgets. So it's very, very important that, like, as they play with the gadgets, they play in their languages.
They watch cartoons in their native languages.
The cartoons are supposed to be in their African languages. They get that socialization, not only one language. So we do need to encourage the media and also everybody else working in these spaces to say, create content, make resources available in these different African languages, so that kids are going to afford their African languages the space that is deserving. Because, like, if we don't create that, they won't see the need. We will complain and say, our African languages are extinguishing and all of that, they're dying. What are we doing about it? We need to start when they're very young, creating those contents, creating those cartoons, and then they enjoy and so forth in our African languages. Yes.
Thank you so much for that response. To close off with the upcoming conference, what are the topics will you be addressing at the conference, and what are your future hopes or developments?
Okay, thank you. As much as, like, I won't be able to cover many of the topics, because our program is huge. We will be having plus or minus 250 presentations or so in a space of about 4 days, and we have about I think 5 different sections. So we will not even be able to listen to all, but, like, we will be selecting, because, like, we know as we teachers, we specialize and do research. You also we are selective in terms of which area we're working on. But, like, I do want to highlight specifically the contributions that will be coming from our keynote speakers. We will be having a keynote speaker who will be Professor Ma, who will be coming from Beijing Foreign Studies University, who is a fluent speaker of isiZulu and the head of isiZulu at BFSU. So she will be giving us a presentation, sharing with us her journey in China in terms of teaching isiZulu there. And what is interesting is that we will be sending one of our PhD students to China, to BFSU, to go and teach isiZulu there for the next 5 years. So that's very, very interesting. One other keynote speaker will be Professor Pamela Masego, who is the Executive Dean of Humanities at Nelson Mandela. She's done quite a lot of work on language planning, policy, and also on archival work. So when you think of work of the early writers, I will not remember all of them, but those early writers, so she will be focusing on some of those works, including the works of Professor Mazisi Gunene and so forth. So those are some of the discussions that we'll be having, that they will be delivering for us. And we'll also be having a keynote presentation from Professor Shani Omari from University of Dar es Salaam in Tanzania. She has also worked on issues of language planning, policy, and also on literature. So she will be coming on the literature side. Currently, she is the head of the Kiswahili Institute at the University of Dar es Salaam. After the conference, she will spend some time here with us here at UKZN because strategically we are developing a major in Kiswahili. So she will be very instrumental in terms of strategizing with us in terms of that. We will also be receiving a keynote address from Professor Leketi Makalela from the University of Witwatersrand, who has done quite a lot of work on translanguaging. And he is one person who came up with a theory on Ubuntu and translanguaging. So he'll be sharing with us his journey in terms of that and the exciting work that he's doing under the chair that he's currently holding. The young presenter who will be giving us a keynote address is actually my product, Dr. Hlongwa from the University of Free State. He will also be giving us a keynote address on issues of language policy and planning. He has done quite a lot of work as a social linguist on issues of information technology and how we position African languages within that space. So he's done quite a lot of work. So we'll be hearing from him. Currently he's being trained for a professoriate position at the University of Free State. So we will be hearing from him. He will be spending some time in Germany during the course of this year. So this will be a perfect opportunity for him to show what he has done and what the future holds. So as we go to this conference, as much as people will be presenting the different works, the sharing the projects that they do, more importantly, what we want to see as an outcome of the conference is collaboration between universities. And collaboration with entities like your radio stations, your other entities. We are bringing the ALASA conference in collaboration with the Pan-South African Languages Board, with the Department of Sports, National Department of Sports Science and Culture, with various publishers, your Via Africa, who are sponsoring a lot of our awards, with Via Africa, with Shooter and Shooter. We are also be collaborating with SADILA, which is the South African Digital Language Resource Agency, an agency of the department of our government within the science and technology and innovation. So that department is tasked with a lot of work in terms of digitizing African languages. So on the 8th, they will be running a workshop, a pre-workshop on some of these digital initiatives that they are working on. So we are excited about the conference, and we hope that you will be able to join us as well as we unpack and look at the future of our African languages, especially in education.
Thank you so much, Prof. Hearing that there are projects like these, it really gives us hope as Africans that we stand a chance of holding on to our traditions and our culture and growing in them, actually. So thank you so much for this. See you at the conference.
Enkosi kakhulu Kabonela, siyabonga.